Welcome to the What's Lacking podcast. It's your host, Larry Atencia. With me today is Gilbert King Elisa. How are you?
I'm well, Larry. Thank you. How are you today?
I'm doing pretty good, yeah. I know you don't like the small talk, so let's get right into it. What gives your life meaning and purpose?
The ability to wake up when a lot of people didn't wake up, the ability to not have any major ailments and pains, things that we take it for granted. And then also search for something a little better than the day before, and the possibility and the hopefulness that you can get a little bit further than you thought you were going to get for the fight.
What are you good at, Gilbert?
I think I'm good at a lot of different things. I wouldn't say I'm particularly great at one big thing, but there are a lot of things that I'm good at. Meaning that I have a lot of experience from a lot of different walks of life. You can put me in a room with a lot of different people, and I can find some commonality that can spark their attention because I know a little bit about a lot of things, if that makes sense.
I think I'm very similar to that as well. Like I know a little bit about a lot of things.
You asked, what am I good at? I've been doing photography for a lot of years now. Been editing. I do video also. I had a poetry group for a very long time. I'm good at writing. I'm good at making time to write. And whether it's early in the morning or throughout the day, I keep a journal. A lot of those things they don't necessarily pay well for, but they're things that I do well.
What makes you happy?
That's a good question. It's changed a lot over the years, but it's always something that was just outside of the reach of what I had. And what has changed in the last decade or two has been being happy with what I have. And that's been the most interesting metamorphosis, and being able to still want things, but know that I don't necessarily need a lot of things to be happy. I also struggle with the fact that I don't think human beings are necessarily here to be happy, but just to be ready for whatever is in front of you and to help and to enrich yourself with the people around you, which can bring you closer to an understanding. I don't know if happiness is involved with that, but I do notice that when I speak to family, when I am able to create, produce, go to the gym, photography, I think when I'm out in nature and disconnected, and also when I listen to lyrics that are meaningful, oh damn, I wish I would have written that, or I wonder how it sounded to the people who were live at that concert when those words came out of their mouth in the 60s or the 70s, and you get to experience it for the first time.
You write lyrics yourself. I know you had mentioned that you had done poetry.
It's funny you asked that because when I was part of the poetry group, out of the critique that I would get from the other members would be, "Oh, this sounds like a song," or is this a song or a poem?" And I never saw myself as a songwriter, but a lot of the musical groups that or acts that I'm interested in are from that period in the 70s, singers songwriters period, when I don't know, something happened when commercialism took over music that then included everybody, even people who necessarily it wasn't their passion to write music, but it was just to make money quick. So the art got left a little behind, and I don't know, I think a lot of uglier people back in the 70s made a lot of pretty music, but when people got prettier, the music got uglier.
I like that. I like that reverse. How did you get into poetry?
I got into it when I went to college, I would say, and I didn't really find a major that interested in me. So I kept switching majors and eventually landed in front of a man, his name was Barry Wallenstein. He had a very cool way about it. He had this class called Poetry and Performance, and it's not slam poetry. His style was more classical, but it was set to jazz music. And if you see Barry Wallenstein, one of the coolest people you're going to meet. And he doesn't do anything fast. He's holding his glass of gin in one hand, and just he always has a rhythm, natural rhythm going on. Invited students over to his house who won't think twice about locking the door, just doesn't worry about much. And he'd written a lot of books. He was the first person to give me a writing scholarship to Bear River in Michigan. Bear River's writer scholarship, and everything was covered. Stayed there for about a week. So it's something about seeing success in what you're doing that inspires you to keep going.
This didn't come up in our previous conversation where we spoke about you being an actor, studying theater, and so it just seems like you're very much an artist, and like that's a really big part of who you are. Do you think that's an accurate statement, or would you say that maybe you wouldn't put that label on yourself?
You're knocking out of the park today, Larry. I think a lot of people who do art struggle with the term artist because they were probably doing whatever they do since they were kids. And it was something that didn't manifest until later. But as a kid, I remember always making people laugh, making up words and expressions that other kids weren't using. But then it'll be the made up slang that everybody else around the block was using. But like a lot of creative young people, I think you keep being pushed away from that because the thought is, well, you know, artists die of hunger, you know, photographers die of hunger, you know, and then you wonder, okay, well, I could eat less, so I can make other moves. So it's something that's really not encouraged, especially if you have a parent that cares about you, because if they want you to make it in a place like New York City, I'm sure a lot of artists did die of hunger. There's some artists out there that receive a lot of credit, and you look at their art and you're like, well, I don't think that's very good, but they have a lot of notoriety. So a lot of it is networking, a lot of it is meeting the right people. But I think now is the best time to be an artist in that you have all these ways in which you can publicize your work and not rely on just this group of people to say, this is the person we're supposed to look up to. But right now, you can make your own star and use all the tools that we have at our disposal. Look how many people went out and got a microphone, got a camera, got recording equipment just so they can be a little bit further along in their talent than they ever would have been if they waited for NBC or ABC or CBS to give them a call. But now you can make your own broadcast. And you've proven that, you know, with the What's Lacking podcast, that it's possible.
Yeah, you don't have to ask for permission now. You could go around the gatekeepers.
I'm trying to respect your podcast. I'm trying to respect your the What's Lacking podcast.
Everyone has a voice, right? So it's a true manifestation of the democratic ideal, right? Because in the 50s, yeah, you could have an opinion, but you couldn't broadcast that opinion. No one had access to that particular opinion that you had. There was a very limited number of people whose opinions could be heard and had the amplification. And now anyone can, like you were saying, have a platform upon which they can express themselves. And it's gotten to the point now where it's pretty much impossible for the establishment or, you know, legacy media outlets to actually muzzle or silence popular people, because there's just so many other avenues of amplification. Evan Kelly, who was like the editor of Wire magazine, you know, he has a famous article called 1,000 True Fans, something along those lines. And his point is, in order for you to make a living or in order for you to establish yourself as a content creator, all you need is 1,000 true fans who are going to support you, who are going to give you a little bit of money, who are going to follow you because what you have to say resonates and connects with them.
I think having a fan base that supports what you're doing, you don't know what someone might not like your content as much as your consistency or the fact that you're producing or the fact that they know when they turn on YouTube what to expect from your channel. I think everyone is good at something. And to go back to your question you asked early on, you asked what am I good at? I think what you are good at personally is not necessarily what people will like. So you have to meet people where they are. For example, in photography, I love my street photography scenes and captures, but people like my nature work. So do I want to make money or do I want to make art? Because that's you know, you're a fisherman. You can't tell the fish how it wants to get caught. For example, I have a nature page on Facebook called Gilbert King Elisa's Artless Revelations. It constantly grows. It's been there since, I would say maybe since 2010. Right now has 18,000 followers. Does it mean 18,000 people I can say, hey, let's join this army, do this? No. But every now and then, hey, you get a big spur. Oh my goodness, I just discovered this page. Oh, I just, let me support it in this way. Let me give it a like. Because a like is as good as, sometimes it's better than a donation that somebody can make.
Yeah. Sorry to interrupt you, but of those 18,000, 1,000 will be willing to support you financially or will be willing to do a meetup. It's growing it. And from that large number of people, finding the true followers who are willing to consume and support anything that you put out because they've already bought into your vision, into the mission, to your ideas, into your authenticity. I think for you, you're putting yourself out there in a way that is honest and transparent. And if a person connects with that, I think it's deeper than someone connecting with a rapper or Hollywood actor where it's all tailored and all manufactured. So I think
Right.
that's another thing in which the new technological landscape has helped regular people, which is being able to present yourself in a way that is authentic and direct and that isn't fabricated. There's this element
Right.
of seeing that there are regular people just like you, regular people just like me, and supporting them because you see that they're an attainable ideal, and that is so much better and real than having to connect with imposed avatars and imposed
Mm,
celebrities. So yeah, I
mm.
think sometimes we sell ourselves short, and we just need to, like you said, be consistent and put out the information. Sometimes it will connect, sometimes it won't, and being okay with that. But your creativity and your artistry is something that probably makes it even easier for you to be able to present things for people to consume and to connect with.
Good point. Yeah.
What's been the biggest change you've had in the last 5 years?
Oh, the last 3 years have been very interesting with the whole with the whole illness situation and the COVID going making its way around the world, and the world seeming a lot more like theater than a real place. And the biggest change has been just not falling for a lot of things when I saw that they were trying to make us fall for it, and still keeping sanity, keeping friends, keeping family, and just the biggest change I would say, not watching news as much as I used to. You hear people talking clips more than being informed. People talking headlines because when you ask them questions, oh, I don't know. I'm like, oh, you read the same thing. But no one depends on the TV anymore to be informed. And the people that do, it's almost like, okay, well, we know what your opinion is already. I'm not saying that the news is better if you consume it online, because also it could be a trap, because then they know how. And when I say, hey, I'm talking about government, you can easily control people because you know how people think. And news makes you think, I have to look at it. You have to look at this news? Why? When have you looked at the news and felt better? You don't. It's a
I don't
stress
watch the
machine.
news. I don't watch the news at all. I read books, articles. I
Yeah.
curate my consumption
Mm.
just like I watch what I eat. I've gone
What?
to the place in my life where I watch what I watch. I watch what I listen to. And so I'm only in the hunt and I'm only in pursuit of deep, meaningful, intelligent cultural artifacts. And the news
We,
aren't that.
well, we need to deport you. You're not a good American. We can't make money off of you. You're not falling
and
for this trap.
And the thing is, some authors are making money off of me. Like I buy books. There's people that I follow. My attention and my clicks are giving them money. I wanted to move on to the next question. Where do you see yourself in 5 years? So the last question was how have you changed in the last 5 years? But now I want you to look into the future.
I see myself more realized. I think a lot
Mm,
of the regret that a lot of people have are not living up to their full potential. That usually happens when you've let a lot of obstacles get in the way without even knowing it. So, I mean, I've lived a lot of life to where I know enough of, hey, this is what's going to happen in this situation. I'm not necessarily, if I lose a job, it's not going to be the end of the world for me. I think if you pre-plan a lot of the things that can happen and will happen, you can have better results, whether it's losing a job, losing a loved one. Our parents are getting older, they're not going to be along for much longer. Your friends decide not to be your friend, all things that have happened in the last few years. The building you live in might catch fire. You don't know. Anything
mhm.
can happen. So as far as that, just being more realized, being able and accustomed to handle more of whatever's thrown at me, but also caring less. There's a talk, it's called Wear Sunscreen. It's an essay. It sets of music. You can find it online on YouTube. The guy says the most interesting 20-year-olds, he's giving a speech for people graduating from college. He said, the most interesting 20-year-olds I know don't know what they want to do with their lives. And the most interesting 40-year-olds I know still don't know what they want to do with their lives. But if you're in it for the fight, then I think you'll be in a good place.
Is this Kurt Vonnegut?
I don't think it's Kurt Vonnegut.
I think I've read it, but I'm not
Yeah,
sure. Continue. Sorry.
it's possible, but everything that I thought was going to happen, and that's the truth for a lot of us, at every stage of life didn't happen.
Mhm.
So everything that I think is going to happen, I'm sure it's not going to happen the way I set it up. And the person who I thought I'd be married to by the time I was 23, he's not even remotely involved in my life in any way, besides a good memory. So that's what I mean. Whoever I transform into is going to be someone that I would not recognize. I'll look at myself at 20 years old and I'm like, who is that guy? He's putting up with that. He's doing that. He's caring about that.
But
Yeah.
of course, I like the word that you used to begin your answer to this question, which is more fully realized. What I'm hearing is that you don't know what the next 5 years will look like. You just know that it's going to be a better version of Gilbert because of the work that you put in every day, because of your intentions, because of your positivity, because of your perspective, because you appreciate the mundane, the everyday. Is that accurate?
Honestly, I don't know. I'd like him to be that person. Yeah.
On that note, what advice would you give to your 20-year-old self?
Buy a bigger tent, okay? Buy a bigger tent. I went to Woodstock in 1999 and I had the littlest tent there. It's funny because it was around the same time. One of my friend who just came from Ecuador, we were surrounded by these huge tents, and it's this little thing, and it was 90 degrees out there in a place with no trees and a former Air Force base, and we're just burning up and watching concerts the whole day, and then coming back to that little tent, trying not to sleep too close to him. That was a challenge. And we put he bought a Woodstock shirt, one of those tie-dye shirts, Woodstock 99. He might see this interview and he might learn the truth after all these years. But he put it on top of the tent to have some shade. I'm talking about, it was maybe a little less in this room. And some dude came from somewhere. Those shirts were about $25. Sun is all of a sudden in our eyes because he took the shirt, he started running with it. And I woke up, I got out of the tent, started running after him. You know, he had just come from Ecuador. He didn't know too much about life in New York. This was in Arliss, New York. I'm running, I'm giving chase, and I didn't catch him. He just kept going. And after a while, everybody looked the same. But I'm like, damn, that's messed up. I don't want him to leave with this memory. So I went to one of the concession stands and I saw the same shirt he has. I think he wore a medium. And I bought him a shirt for $25. I'm like, that wasn't working then either. I came back.
25 was a lot back then.
Back then, yeah. And I came back to the tent and I told him I caught the guy. And I even poured some beer on the shirt so it looked like
It
I
smelled
had to
just like
struggle
it.
with it. But no, I bought him a new shirt and he probably still has it to this day.
How many friends do you have, and how would you describe those friendships?
Total, I have to count them.
How many close friends?
Besides Larry. It's funny, Larry. I had a lot of friends growing up, and then it stopped when I was about 15. So in a way, I've been on my own since 15. And I went to college. I had my group of friends in college, a lot of friends in college, and then it stopped. So I don't know whether the times changed, or I became a bad friend, or people just stopped relating in the same way in which they used to, or a combination of everything. They're all possibilities. But I remember that when people go to college, people go away, circles break. I was one of those kids that spent a lot of time with family. So family was always like best friends, whether it was cousins, whether it was aunts and uncles. So I would consider them great friends. And what I understood of friendship, hey, you're interested in this? Bam, you have it. You're interested in starting a business? Okay, here's the application to start the business. Sharing everything, food from house to house to house to house, traveling together, even if it's just to another borough, eating together. But that stopped. So I'm not looking at it as a thing of regret. I'm happy that I had those memories.
Friendships for me have changed a lot recently just because I feel like I've changed so much. Like every 5 years, you're basically a completely different person. And so the interest, the things that made you close to someone when you were 20 to 25 aren't going to be the same from 25 to 30 or 30 to 35. And so I feel like a lot of times we force a lot of friendships just because of the memories and all of the strong bonding situations and moments that you went through with them, but those friendships are being held together by past versions of yourself and that person that no longer exists. It's, you know, it's just a matter of accepting and recognizing that friends come in seasons, and sometimes the people that most impact us at a particular stage in our life aren't going to be there at a later stage. Same thing with relationships, right? So like friendships are very much like relationships, you know, and accepting and moving on and keeping those nice memories. But you also, you know, as you get older, you have less time. You know, you have partners, wives, husbands, whatever, that do require lots of your attention. You have children, you have house projects, you have your podcast, you have your poetry, your photography. So you got to move on. At this point in my life, I don't have many friends either. I've had very dramatic drastic friendship breakups. I think
Right.
it allows you to winnow it down. It allows you to keep a small circle and only keep in touch with those people who you really want to continue building, developing, and talking to. And usually that means that they're also in a trajectory of self improvement, a trajectory of self actualization. And you know that continuing to connect with them, continuing to communicate with them is going to enhance your own trajectory, enhance your own pursuit of being better, as opposed to certain
Hmm.
people who are still basically the same person that they were when you first met them. And you love them, but they're really not adding anything to your
Absolutely.
project and your journey. And so it's just better to leave them behind.
Yeah, it's a natural separation. I think that happens after a certain age. I think there's a rebirth that happens at 35. And I heard George Bruno say this. He said, be married to your mission. And a lot of it is selfish. But when it comes to something like this, it's something particularly personal. But you also know that when you can involve other people in it, that's when it really becomes beautiful. Like in the movie Into the Wild, where McCandless says life is only truly enjoyed when shared with others. And I think the ability to do both is maybe there's some genius in that.
What are your hobbies, Gilbert?
Photography, having good conversation, exploring, creating, editing, multitasking, going to the gym, being active, basketball, tennis, skating, writing, educating people, being able to help someone.
Final question: what's your favorite TV show of all time?
If you ask me today, I'm going to say Sopranos and The Wonder Years.
The combination.
Nothing has inspired me more to write than I would say The Wonder Years.
Beautiful. It just
Everything about
captures
it.
the nostalgia and the
Yes.
innocence lost, and how you go from the word that you use, romanticizing and idealizing an idea of
Hmm.
family and love and cohesion, and
Hmm.
how the outer world, the external world, intrudes upon that and slowly but surely starts corrupting that beautiful idyllic existence. So yeah, I love the Wonder Years. I started The
And then
Sopranos and I never really got into it. I will
it
say that.
happens. It happens. I mean,
Never
the
got
thing is,
into it.
when you watch it, the show started in '96, and if you start watching it later, I could see where it's okay. A lot of things are dated, but give it a
Moment.
chance. You give it. You'll
Yeah.
probably give it another chance when you have some downtime or something like that.
Yeah, yeah. I got
But
up to like episode 7. It's well
okay,
written. It's pretty good. It's just it didn't capture me. It didn't pull me in. I didn't have this visceral connection to Tony Soprano that I usually do with other main characters in other like prestige shows. I was thinking of restarting it. I haven't watched a TV show in a while, so
that's why I say Wonder Years. You Wonder Years. Every episode is about 22 minutes, and then it's done. And the thing about it is that there's no throwaway scenes in that series. Everything, there's no small talk. Everything's dealing with something head on. That can it be made today? They should give it a try, but not the way they did it with the Black family. That was in the Wonder Years. They should have called that someone else. It's something else. But it's funny when you search Wonder Years now online, the first thing that will come up will be the Black Wonder Years.
for
So
the
I
new
don't know how that
generation.
happened. Yeah, but not the
I mean,
same.
because I know, and obviously the original Wonder Years is a classic. But if you're 12 years old, to
Yeah.
them, like the original Wonder Years is like 1920s.
It's
They
funny
have
that
no
you
sense of
It's
history.
funny that you said that because I started watching it with young people,
Oh yeah, nice.
and they seem to be wanting to binge on it.
But do they
They couldn't
understand
get
the
enough.
context, like in terms of the era?
No.
For them, it's like 80s and 40s is like the same thing. Like little kids have, I mean, I could be wrong, but they just don't have a sense of different decades. And maybe that's something that we also didn't have, but I feel like I did. But maybe that's just because I'm into history and
Right,
understanding
because you're
different
curious.
eras. Exactly. So,
So if the kids are curious, then they're like, okay, wow, this I've heard about this in school, but I didn't know the framing around it. So they watch the family dynamics, the boys, one is combating with the other.
yeah.
And they're like, oh, that's like me and you. They're two kids. So they're like, okay, well, they see their dynamic and the way they get along. And one is beating up the other one, and the other one's complaining to the parent. And then one is a little bit more understanding, more empathetic to what the family dynamic is and what the mother's going through and what the father's going through. The other one's just like, just trying to be funny
Yeah.
and doesn't care about anything. Yeah, The Wonder Years. No, it's to me, that's a perfect show. And if I wish I would have been part of any writing process ever, it would have been that between Neil Marlins and Carol Black, who created the show. They also they produced another series called White Man's Burden, talking about the need to go into other cultures that have been untouched and educate them.
Well, Gilbert, King Elisa, it's been great having you on the podcast again.
Thank you for having me on your show.
Appreciate you. Take care.
Thank you.